We've seen how the Agape Stele, a monument from the time of Nabonidus, confirms the Neo-Babylonian chronology, listing the names of the kings of Babylon and how long each reigned. What is more, it lists a 95-year period from the birth of Agape until the accession of her son Nabonidus that leaves no room for any gaps between kings. The Agape Stele is not our only line of evidence that seals off the idea that there could be gaps of time between the known kings. Previously, we've discussed the Gibeah banking records that trace the family heads of a bank for an 81-year period from Nebuchadnezzar to the Persian king Darius. This too allowed for no gaps. Let us go back a bit to the Agape Stele. In column 1, note the following passage. Whereas in the 16th year of Nabopolassar, king of Babylon, Sin, king of the gods, with his city and his temple was angry, and went up to heaven. The city and the people that were in it went to ruin. What city and temple is being mentioned here? We find the answer further down, towards Hillah, the temple of Sin, which is in Harran, the abode of his heart's delight. He was reconciled, he had regard. The temple in Harran was ruined in the 16th year of Nabopolassar, a fact we can confirm by the Babylonian chronicles. But the temple was not to remain in a ruined state forever. The Nabonidus cylinder of Sippar relates a dream that the king had when he ascended the throne. In the beginning of my everlasting reign they sent me a dream. Marduk, the great lord, and Sin, the luminary of heaven, and another world, stood together. Marduk spoke with me. Nabonidus, king of Babylon, carry bricks on your riding horse. Rebuild Hillah and cause Sin, the great lord, to establish his residence in its midst. At that time Nabonidus began to rebuild the ruined temple. Why is this of any relevance? Because of information found in the Hillah Stele, which describes the period of time that the temple remained in ruins. It reads in part, as to the temple Hillah in Harran, which was in ruins for 54 years, through a devastation by the Manda hordes, the sanctuaries were laid waste. The temple predestined by the gods, the moment for the appeasement, to wit, 54 years had come near, when Sin should have returned to his place. Now Sin, the crown-bearer, did return to his place and remembered his lofty seat. And as to all the lesser gods who had moved out with him from his shrine, it was again Marduk, the king of all the gods, who ordered me to gather them. Here, in the Hillah Stele, Nabonidus describes a 54-year period where the temple of Harran was in ruins, a period which ended in his accession year, when he began to rebuild it. We know from other sources that the temple was ruined in the 16th year of Nabopolassar. Therefore, from the 16th year of Nabopolassar until the time Nabonidus ascended the throne was a span of 54 years. We know that Nabopolassar reigned for 21 years. So, if we subtract 16 years, the remainder of his reign after the temple was ruined would be 5 years. We know that Nebuchadnezzar ruled for 43 years. His son Marduk ruled 2 years. We know that Nergal-Sharezer ruled 4 years. If we add it all up, we come to 54 years. As with the Agape Stele, this shows there could be no gaps between the reigns of Nabopolassar and Nebuchadnezzar, between Nebuchadnezzar and his son Marduk, between Marduk and Nergal-Sharezer, and between Nergal-Sharezer and Nabonidus. The period from the 16th year of Nabopolassar until the accession of Nabonidus was 54 years, which harmonizes exactly with the thousands of economic tablets, with the Gibeah banking records, and with the Agape Stele. There are simply no extra kings, no extra years, no gaps. For more digging, one could research SAKF 165, an inventory tablet of wool over a 5-year period from the 15th, 16th, and 17th year of Nabonidus until the 1st and 2nd year of the Persian king Cyrus. showing there were no kings or gaps between the last Babylonian king Nabonidus and Cyrus the Great. Or perhaps one could research NBC 4897, a bookkeeping tablet that tabulates livestock over a 10-year period, from the 37th year of Nebuchadnezzar through the 2-year reign of his son Marduk to the 1st year of Nergal-Sharezer. Time would fail us if we would bring up every bit of evidence that seals the gaps, as it were. But what has been presented thus far shows there is no room for one additional year, much less the 20-year gap that would be needed for Jerusalem to have been destroyed in 607 BC, rather than 587 BC. At what point does enough become enough?